And staying with this story, the BBC has removed a controversial tweet about Friday's attack after Israel complained about biased reporting. The original headline said, 3 Palestinians killed after deadly stabbing in Jerusalem, which Israel believes gives the misleading impression that the people killed were not, in fact, the terrorists. The Israeli embassy in London is now demanding a clear apology from the BBC. Now, to discuss this, we want to bring in Daniel Pomerantz, senior editor of Honest Reporting. Can you hear us,
Yes,
Daniel?
I hear you.
You can hear us. Thank you. Daniel, it's definitely
Yes,
not
I can.
the first time that Israel complains about the BBC's headlines. Now, from your research, do you see a true bias against Israel there?
Well, you know, we read hundreds of articles every month, and we see the BBC frequently being an offender with exactly this type of bias. They often emphasize the death of the terror attackers, and sometimes, as in this case, don't even mention at all that they were involved in an attack.
But it's not only the BBC, as we know, that has come up with similar headlines in the past. Can you understand maybe the reporting logic behind it?
You know, it's difficult to understand. The media includes a lot of people, and everyone comes with their own way of thinking. Some might have an intentional bias against Israel. Some might simply not understand the situation and not care to learn. But what we've found is we reviewed reporting from just this month, the attacks at the London Bridge, the attack in Virginia in the United States, and attacks previously in Paris and Brussels, and we never see news reporters failing to emphasize the death of the victims. And we always see in all of those cases the word terrorism. Only in Israel, of every country in the world, do we see failure to mention that there were deaths of victims and failure to use the word terrorism.
But sometimes, as we know, with the Israeli definition, of course, Israeli media definition of terror is not like the international definition of terror. Isn't it so? Because
Well, the important thing is that we see a clear double standard. Whatever definition anyone's using, they're clearly using one in every country in the world and a different one in Israel. The attacks, for example, just this past week at the London Bridge, we didn't know at first whether they were tied to any particular organization. We didn't know the motivation, and yet almost every headline used the word terrorism when speaking about them. And as we saw, this prompted both Donald Trump Jr. and Prime Minister Netanyahu to take immediate action in responding to this. And Honest Reporting is constantly responding to these, even when they aren't quite high profile enough to attract the Prime Minister's attention.
Daniel, did past complaints to media outlets by Israeli citizens or officials succeed?
They do. What happens is we put out messages to our followers, and we have some 150,000 of them. The result is that journalists end up getting thousands of emails from our followers. If we have a relationship, we contact the journalists directly. And if there's one thing that the media cares about, it's their reputation and their credibility. And when they see that that's in danger from informed news readers and news watchers, they take action, which is why it's important for people to engage with groups like Honest Reporting and to engage with journalists when there's a problem.
Daniel Pomerantz from Honest Reporting, thank you so much for joining us.